Welcome to our TV network, your ultimate destination for all things exciting and essential. From mouth-watering food to the latest in fashion, health, education, music, movies, and news, plus thrilling sports and breathtaking travel, our TV network brings it all to you. Tune in today and experience the best of every world, all in one place, rtv.network.
Welcome back to another exciting season of Connect Caribbean Report. We're thrilled to be back with you. Hope you had a great 2024 and happy and prosperous 2025 from all of us here on TV Network. We are ready to explore, analyze, and dive deep into the topics that matter most to the Caribbean and our global diaspora. I'm Jennifer Hyland, your co-host here on Connect Caribbean Report. And this season, we are bringing you a fresh lineup of compelling stories and thought-provoking discussions led by your trusted hosts across each segment. So here's a glimpse of what you can expect. From major regional developments to shifts in global politics, including the potential impacts of new policies under the Trump administration, we'll be breaking down the issues shaping the Caribbean's future. We'll keep you informed as well on the latest advancements with Caribbean America's Single Economy Initiative and what it means for businesses, trade, and economic growth across the region. Agriculture is evolving in extraordinary ways. And this season, we're diving into the future of food security and innovation in agriculture, uncovering how technology is transforming our yields and empowering farmers across the Caribbean. And of course, we'll explore travel and culture with a focus on connecting with the Caribbean diaspora and leveraging digital tools to enhance tourism and regional unity. Our mission remains the same: to empower, educate, and engage with the stories that are bridging the islands and unlocking new possibilities for the entire region. So I want you to stay tuned and get ready for a season full of insight, inspiration, and impact. Thank you for joining us again for this journey. And remember, this is your front row seat to the next wave of regional transformation we're covering here on Connect Caribbean Report. So this season is the way forward, 2025. And we'll be right back with Ambassador Thomas and Connect Caribbean World right after these messages.
This is a Bloomberg Money Minute. The Federal Reserve rate decision and mega cap earnings season are expected to be Wednesday's key market movers. The Fed is not expected to lower rates after this meeting, but investors will be looking for some guidance for the rest of the year. And as for those mega cap earnings, we'll be hearing from Microsoft, Meta, and Tesla. General Motors gave up on self-driving cars, but there is a silver lining to its decision. It gave a better than expected profit outlook because the elimination of that unit is expected to save the company $500 million this year, twice as much in future years. It's still unclear, though, how President Trump's threat to impose 25% tariffs on Canada and Mexico could impact GM's supply chain and profitability. GM shares on Tuesday were down more than 8%. Starbucks saw its quarterly sales decline in the latest quarter, but the 4% slide was better than the previous quarter's 7% slump. I'm Nancy Lyons.
Hello and welcome to everyone in Connect Caribe World. It's so exciting to join you in this new year, a great new year of big possibilities. There's lots happening in the world, but the future belongs to the brave, to the wise, and to the daring. And we are part of that group. We're bold, we're daring, we are innovative, we're strategic, and we believe that 2025 will be an awesome, awesome year for us. I'm happy I'm joined by Anthony Wicks, partner, and great to have you, Anthony.
Nice to be here, Ambassador. Good to see you again. Of course, you and the listening audience. It is the first time. This is the premiere of our season 2, and I'd like to extend a warm Happy New Year and prosperity and health for our view and the listening audience.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. But when I think of 2025, now these are my thoughts. I believe that 2025 are going to demonstrate that where government policies synergizes with the well before I go there, when the philosophy of government synergizes with the philosophy of business, something happens. Business vision then marries government policy. And when business vision marries government policy, transformative projects are created. And transformative projects become reality. And I believe in 2025, from our team, we are going to see transformative projects because the philosophy of government, of the US Virgin Island government, synergizes and is aligned with our philosophy of creating economic growth, economic opportunity for the region. And we see that the USVI can be a major driver of Caribbean economic development, connecting the Caribbean with the US along America's third border. And then, secondly, our business vision, our business goals totally synergize with policies of the US Virgin Island government. And when that happens, amazing things can happen. And so I believe that the maritime vision that we have is going to become a reality. And the capital market vision that we have, we're going to see some tangible projects come into manifestation, into reality as a result of that. And so that's why I'm very excited about 2025. 2025 is not a year of vision. 2025 is a year of projects that we're going to execute and make the vision happen. Okay, over to you, Anthony.
Thank you for that, Ambassador. While I have a number of different angles that I can approach based on what you shared, I am of the mindset that where we are collectively as an organization, as a group, it's activate, implement, monetize. We've spent an incredible amount of time and resources, getting to where we are today.
Absolutely.
And I believe the where we are today and talking about transformation, but more important is the new economic paradigm and the geopolitical paradigm.
Yes.
That's going to drive this. And so philosophically, on a macro level, how and what you choose to subscribe to at the end of the day is going to dictate what that looks like on the other side. The uniqueness of the US Virgin Islands, the uniqueness of the island of St. Croix, every island within the archipelago brings a unique, if you will, proposition to the table. And once we understand what that defining role is, I think then we look to integrate what that uniqueness is to be able to then leverage those relationships to create this single mission as to where we are and how we're going to get there. We're seeing the transformation of governments throughout the world. Some are more protectionist in their philosophical approach. Some are more global in their approach. But certainly we are at a juncture here in the Virgin Islands that we need to take our rightful place at the table, because we are both uniquely a U.S. territory within the Caribbean, but we're uniquely Caribbean. And when you think of the history and the heritage and the role the Caribbean has played in America, the genesis of America to today, we have played in a critical role, an important role of who we are today. So on the issue of immigration, you can't ignore the fact that we wouldn't be who we are today and where we are today if you didn't understand the contribution of Caribbean American and our relationship to our, if you will, motherland and home back in the Caribbean. And so I am excited because we get to finally, the Virgin Islands can finally get to wear two hats, understanding the power that we have and the role and the responsibility that we have as a U.S. territory, but coexisting with our Caribbean neighbors in the region. And how do we leverage these things to create economic and socioeconomic prosperity for the people of the Caribbean region and the United States?
That's wonderful. That is absolutely wonderful, and I'm looking forward to connecting with the viewers and taking them on our journey, because they're part of our journey, and as they see this vision unfold, this single Caribbean American market, and see us reach some milestones. And so for me, the immediate future is very, very bright, and I am really looking forward to it. And in fact, in my take, the macroeconomic conditions and the policies and the direction of the American administration, in my thinking, and even from conversations I've had with political leaders who I engage with, are actually going to have a very good effect. They're going to force Caribbean nations to be more innovative, and actually going to force them to become more wealth creation orientated, and going to force them to say, okay, what do we have that we can leverage to build our economic power, our economic strength? Because it is very clear that right now, having an economic policy based on a nation giving you grants and aid is no longer going to be a viable proposition. That's a very shaky proposition. So there's some who actually are saying, well, aid is not a dignifying economic policy. And so the fact that aid is going to be reduced, some who have been for many years championing the cause that we need to leverage what we have, like these partnerships with, say, the U.S. Virgin Islands, we need to focus more on things like this. Now their minds are going to go towards that, because the flow of that aid is being cut, and it's going to be significantly reduced.
And let me say this before we end this segment. There are three things we need to be looking at. We need to look at what's going to happen with the Panama Canal outcome and the disposition of this new administration. The Nearshoring Act that's taken its passage through Congress to bring back the supply chain closer to the United States, particularly here in the third border, and the role that the U.S. Virgin Islands is going to play, particularly on St. Croix, from an infrastructure standpoint, because the Virgin Islands uniquely is, in terms of our ability to operate and exist, is based on the treaty that was signed back in 1917 between Denmark and the United States.
Yeah.
When people ask, what is that unique proposition? It is the unique proposition of the Virgin Islands being a U.S. territory, its treaty with Denmark, and it's the ability to look at the supply chain, the cost of labor, and the transportation, logistics, and infrastructure that will dictate how things are going to flow in terms of tariff and labor throughout the region.
Okay, excellent. Okay, we have Jennifer here, and we know what that means. When we see her face, we know what that means. Great to have you, Jennifer.
Thank you, Ambassador, and thank you, Anthony, for setting the stage for our program. One key thing that you mentioned there is creativity and innovation, and it's really important, especially with the case that we really move forward with linking CARICOM single market economy to accelerate the initiatives that you spoke about in your opening there, Ambassador Thomas and Anthony. But that's all the time we have for Connect Caribbean World in the first segment. We'll be coming up shortly with Chris Principe. I haven't spoken to them so long, I almost forgot their names. But Chris Principe and John Cadenin, and we have Caroline. Caroline is going to be joining us as well in that segment. So right after this commercial break, we'll be back with Connecting the Dots.
With the Bloomberg Small Business Report, I'm John Tucker. Uncle Sam likes to do business with small business, and the Pentagon particularly fond of working with small businesses. Government-wide small business procurement set new records in fiscal 2024. All federal agencies' use of small business vendors was nearly $176 billion combined and amounted to close to 23% of federal prime contracting. Increased Pentagon procurement from small businesses topped $100 billion for the first time. Small business spending made up 21% of all unclassified defense procurement, 1.5 percentage points higher than the previous year, this according to Bloomberg government data. It's a long-held belief that federal agencies like working with small vendors. They seem to be far more responsive and flexible, and if something goes wrong, the owner is just a phone call away and quickly get things resolved. The data show vendors relied more on small business set-asides in fiscal 2024 than in the previous year. And that's the Bloomberg Small Business Report.
Good afternoon, listening audience. It's my pleasure to welcome you to the Connecting the Dots segment. And joining me today are my esteemed colleague, Carolyn Howell, who hails from the Washington, Maryland, Virginia area, and brings to us a wealth of knowledge, and she'll introduce some of the concepts that we'll be talking about in our segment. And my longtime colleague, Chris Principe, we'll be talking about the financial aspects. But let me start by talking about what we're going to try to do in the Connecting the Dots segment through this season 2. First, in episode 2, we'll unlock the diaspora through innovative tourism, and we'll discuss economic benefits and tapping into the diaspora for tourism, including increased revenue and cultural exchange. And we'll get some innovative tourism projects in the Caribbean and discuss the challenges of developing tourism with infrastructure limitations and the opportunity to collaborate, as Anthony and the ambassador talked about in the last segment. In episode 3, we'll talk about the economic diversification and the importance of emphasizing the need for the region's vulnerability to external shocks and dependency on just a few industries right now. And we'll discuss the developing renewable energy, promoting entrepreneurship, and connecting the dots in the human capital and this workforce development that's needed. We will talk about limited resources, the brain drain. We'll talk about bureaucratic barriers. And then we'll highlight and connecting the dots some of the success stories that we know, and in the development of the IT sector in Barbados, the growth of industry tourism in the Dominican Republic. Episode 4 will bring us to the role of small and medium-sized businesses. And we just heard in the Bloomberg report about how that small business section is growing and has these set-asides for small business. We'll talk about the SMEs as drivers for growth and the job creation in the Caribbean. We'll talk about the challenges of the limited access to finance, inadequate infrastructure, and some of the what we would call bureaucratic hurdles. But we'll talk about initiatives connecting the dots in training programs, mentorship schemes, and access to finance. And then finally, in the next two episodes, we'll talk about agriculture and the challenges facing those, including climate change, soil degradation, and limited access to finance, again, that Chris will cover. And we'll talk about precision agriculture, vertical farming, mobile apps for farmers. We'll talk about initiatives to share knowledge and expertise. And then in the final, wrap up of the first parts of this season 2, we're going to talk about investing in Caribbean infrastructure opportunities and challenges, and that infrastructure need that we have for improving energy efficiency, enhancing digital connectivity, and then the private partnerships with the public sector, green bonds, crowdfunding, all those things that Chris is a master in, and connecting these dots as we have. So as we go forward, I want to turn it over now to Carolyn and let her talk about her introduction as our new host and those segments that she has. And then we'll follow up with Chris and we'll talk about the finance sector and maybe get a review of some of the interesting shows that he's been going to. Carolyn?
Thank you so much, John. I really appreciate it. Chris, it's good to see you. And it is also good to be seen by our audience out there. I'm really excited about this show, Connect Caribbean, what it does. Jennifer Hyland is an incredible anchor who outlines, helps us see the direction that we're going to be heading in. So I'm pleased to be able to bring with us to the show some of the subject matter experts that are based here in what we call the DMV, DC, Washington, DC, Maryland, and Virginia. Some of those individuals, so the topics that, John, you just spoke about, these are going to be individuals that are going to drill down a little bit into this information. And let me say this, just in terms of the group that we have here, the panel, I'm so excited to be on as a team member because you each are experts in your own right. Your decades of experience and your own entrepreneurship is really going to speak to the audience. So you're not going to be speaking about what people think could happen. You've actually experienced so much of these things. So I'm excited to be able to bring perhaps some new personalities that you haven't seen for some of the shows that we have outlined ahead. And I also want to keep in mind that we've got the Economic Summit coming up. That's a big deal in April 7th, 8th, and 9th. Keep your eyes here as well as on our social media for RTV Network, because we're going to be talking about that economic summit. So some of the topics that you talked about, some of the really important ones, are going to be there. So we're going to be in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, and then we're going to convene in St. Croix in the U.S. Virgin Islands. So it's going to be an opportunity for hands-on engagement, face-to-face meeting, and the possibilities are endless. So, Chris, I think I've said enough.
Well, Carol, thank you very much. And John, my ever-present co-host, appreciate the lead in. Thank you. I have to tell you that I just really feel amazing about this year in particular coming up. 2025 just seems full of optimism, and for a lot of good reasons. You know, there's a lot of work going on, a lot of positive work going on that I think we'll see some results from. And that's one of the things that we hear a lot from people is, you know, a lot of talk, not a lot of action. This year, 2025, there will be action, and there'll be action in our region. And a lot of that is coming from our newly elected President Trump in the United States and the policies and things that he will look to pull forward. So one of the things that I really expect to see is that there'll be some economic benefits globally, but in particular in our regions based on what will happen in the United States. And I think that, you know, while we want to look independently, there is some dependency on what comes out of Washington. So it's really a pleasure that we have Carol here with us. So we have an ear right on the ground there. And we can see that. The other thing that's interesting that maybe a lot of people don't know is that this year, 2025, begins the 250th anniversary of the start of the American Revolutionary War. And that historic event really is what projected the change in how governments work and how people interact with their governments and the economic benefits that come from that. So I expect that will be an underlining foundation for those economic benefits that we will see coming this year. We'll get a chance on other episodes to talk more of topics in particular, but just a few of the topics that for me, I think are really key is certainly fintech, certainly that digitalization and being able to connect with people on a unique basis is going to continue to grow. I think we're looking at the younger generations now, particularly the youngest one, where these kids are digital natives. It's not like myself or Carol or John, where we learned about these things and we're trying all the time. They're coming right out of diapers into a digital world. And it's amazing to me, and it's exciting. So I think that there's a lot of benefits that we want to see there. And when we look at the Caribbean in general, yes, we have great natural resources, beautiful beaches, for example, a little less on the manufacturing side. But to me, the number one resource that is available to us in the Caribbean and needs our attention and development is the human resources.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep. And see, technology is where that can intersect to really bring us a lot of benefits, because the human resources are there. We have a great group of willing to work, willing to learn, and innovative people. And to me, that's our greatest resource, and we need to really focus on that for this year. Now I see Jennifer's back on there, so I'm going to turn it back over to our wonderful host.
All right, thank you, Chris and Carolyn, for that perspective. As I said before, we're excited about connecting the dots, particularly since we'll have this direct connection to the DC, Maryland, and Virginia area, and we'll look at the financial aspect of how that whole thing changes within the context of the new or the 250th revolution beginning, and also the change of administration, which all of us know we're waiting to see how that real tie to business and the public sector is going to unfold. So Jennifer, back to you as our anchor.
Thank you so much, team. That was a very engaging conversation. Just listening here in the back here, and so much to talk about, a lot of disruption happening in the market, in the economy. And I know Chris was here in Barbados, so I'm really excited to chat with him about his experience at the FinTech. He just mentioned FinTech, and FinTech Islands talked about innovation and digital innovation. So I'm going to bring him back on and we're going to chat coming up about his experience here in Barbados at FinTech Islands 2025. So we'll be right back. after this message.
This is the Bloomberg Real Estate Report. I'm Denise Pellegrini. The housing market is hitting a snag, according to some.
There's volatility right now, and it feels very frothy, the environment.
Bess Friedman, CEO Brown Harris Stevens, says high mortgage rates are hurting sales right now.
People assumed that when the Fed cut the last time before the end of the year that we would start to see mortgage rates come down. But there's been so much volatility in the market. It's going to take time before we start to see a real shift.
And she says buyers and sellers are really far apart when it comes to how they think about what the price should be in some cases.
Feels like, when you used to go to those dances when you were a kid and the boys are on one side and the girls are on the other. It's like buyers and sellers. Nobody wants to get in the middle and, get involved. There's just gridlock right now.
The market for new homes is way stronger than the existing home market right now as builders offer incentives, including mortgage rate buy-downs, and also build smaller, more affordable homes. And that's the Bloomberg Real Estate Report.
Reimagine a world where the Caribbean is seamlessly connected, where our people, our cultures, and our economies move freely across the islands. This is Connect Caribe, more than a ferry service. It's the heartbeat of a new era, an era where economic opportunities expand, where trade flows freely across our seas, and cultural exchange flourishes. We are linking businesses, empowering communities, and reigniting the hope for a truly integrated Caribbean. Together, we're shaping a brighter, more unified future for the Caribbean. Connect Caribbean, connecting our islands, our people, our future.
Welcome back to Connect Caribbean Report, and you're in the spotlight, and I'm so happy. I borrowed Chris from John. I hope he doesn't mind. We want to chat about some, our experience here in Barbados with the FinTech islands. And we closed out the previous segment. We were talking about innovation and digital transformation. And you traveled to Barbados just last week. You were here attending the FinTech islands. I hosted a couple of those segments, and I want to get your, your experience. What was the takeaway? I mean, there's some. I want to just mention some of the topics that they covered. They covered digital transformation, inclusive innovation in financial services, unlocking a connected financial ecosystem, and that was all on day one. And day two, they looked at the technology of trust and demystifying decentralized finance and financial technology, transforming our world, and some very interesting topics that they covered. And I want to talk to as well, Chris, about the recent disruptive with China's DeepSeek AI and what that could mean for us, even here in the Caribbean, as even the founders of ChatGPT is asking the government of Trump administration for protection. What does all of that mean for us moving forward? But tell me, what has been your experience here in Barbados at FinTech Islands, Fix 25? Just give us your breakdown.
Well, Jennifer, thank you very much for that lead in. And I will say first that such a pleasure for me to once again be back in Barbados, truly a unique and beautiful country. And the setting there, the hotel that this event was at is new, it's modern, it's crisp, it's overlooking some dramatic views of the natural coastline and beach. And it really was a very good setting. And if you ask me what I would say is the underlining theme at the event, to me, it was connecting. It was connecting people digitally to all the different aspects of their life. And of course, particularly my interest is on the finance side. And along with that, for me, as my colleagues know very well, I love going to events. And I hope to be able to bring to you a number of sessions this season that will be live from some of the biggest events as well as some of the most unique events. So it was a real pleasure for me to start my year off with the FinTech Beach event in Barbados. So a lot of the conversation I had with people, a lot of the presenters, a lot of the really we're looking at how to connect digitally with people in the Caribbean, with other areas of the world, with people in the Caribbean and the financial situation and what will happen going forward. And it really seems to me that there is a unique amount of entrepreneurial talent that is working on these problems, that already has solutions to these problems and has presented some of this. And that connections, the ability for people to very easily pay and get paid, whether they're connected to a bank or not, I think is really critical going forward. That ability will allow small businesses in the Caribbean to be able to interact with the rest of the world. That ability will allow people on different islands to not have to go through the challenges of different language that we have in the region, with different currencies, which is a challenge in the region, and with different nation islands. So all of this kind of seamlessly interwoves itself into people's lives to make it easier and brighter. So go ahead, Jennifer, sorry.
Yeah, well, I was, as you were talking, I was looking back at the comments from the governor of the central bank, where he spoke about the modernization project in collaboration with the World Bank, in terms of advancing accessibility, security, and efficiency within the Barbadian financial system. And certainly that pertains across the Caribbean as well. You weren't at day one, I don't believe. So in terms of, he also mentioned about the interoperability of fintech solutions, saying they must integrate effectively to ensure greater efficiency and security across a financial ecosystem. And as these digital payments come on board, and a lot of disruptive things are happening in the financial system. I know we're going to be talking about small businesses coming up in a program, but what would you say to a small business who, definitely may not be prepared? Because when I looked at the survey coming out of the FinTech, 0% said that they were ready for this disruptive financial system that's happening, especially as it relates with AI, as I just alluded to in my opening. So what would you say as a financial expert, with all of this coming on board, and the Caribbean seems to be on the back end trying to catch up? What is your overview on this situation, and what would you say is some of the things that we need to put in place to address, this lag that's happening here in the Caribbean?
Well, Jennifer, it was a topic that was well spoken about at the event, and really the introduction of AI it's a very important and useful tool for us going forward. My personal belief is that we're scratching the surface of what the potential is, but where this tool can really help us is connecting people and going over some of the challenges that have been there in the past and making it easier. It's really, in its simplest sense, a tool of ease, and that will allow the easier connections, easier movement of finance, easier movement of communication. But it comes with its own risks and potentially negative features that go along with all the benefits, and we need to be cautious about that.
Something that you just alluded to, in ease of doing business, and as we look to integrate with the Caribbean, America's single economy and CARICOM, and when you look at the ease of business in terms of doing business in the Caribbean, sometimes, I'm not being the devil's advocate here, but by the time we understand what all of this really means, we will be really way behind. And I know we spoke in previous programs about education. So, and I know you speak a lot in connecting the dots in terms of being ready and with Caribbean America's single economy, but what do you think that we need to do as, as Carlin alluded to, experts here on Connect Caribbean report? Really, what do you think that we need to do from a case perspective. I know Anthony can weigh in on this at some point, but from your financial perspective, what do we really need to do to make sure that we're not lagging behind in 2025?
Yeah, Jennifer, I mean, so that is the important question really for us right now, and I think that some of the things that we need to do is to be able to get a structure both for the financial community as well as the legislative communities that brings the Caribbean together, and we are able to merge the different interests in a way that we become more of a block rather than individual countries, so that we have some greater influence. And the CASE initiative, the SETI initiative, all speaks to that, and those need to be pushed forward. But if I have to say what is, in my view, the key thing, it again comes back to education. And that education is really what we need to focus on in a lot of ways. And I just want to mention one company that I had the pleasure of speaking with at the FinTech Beach events, which was called Blockchain Lex. And people should really look at this company because they are giving education for free when it comes to what goes on in technology. And today, technology is our lives. I mean, as we age, there'll be less people that are less inclined to use technology, and more of the younger generation coming in who, as I mentioned earlier, are digital natives. So that education process, supported by government initiatives across the region, to me is probably the key factor.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Chris, for your contribution to In the Spotlight. And definitely are looking forward to bringing everyone back to have a conversation around these discussions that we've had in each of the segments. And certainly with Connect Caribbean Ferry Service in the e-commerce component, this is a really critical component for our ferry service in terms of the small business and making sure that our small businesses that sign on to the e-commerce division of Connect Caribbean Ferry is ready, and we're not lagging behind. But that's a conversation future, or maybe we'll talk about that coming up in Connected Voices. So we'll take a break right here, and we'll be back after this message. Thank you. Welcome back to Connect Caribbean Report, and we are here in Connected Voices. Really want to thank Chris Principe for joining me in the Spotlight. I hope that we can have more conversations together as we move forward. But we have all of the hosts here, and take it away. We just talked about a whole myriad of potpourri of things. Anything that you didn't get to mention that you would want to touch on in Connected Voices? Go ahead, Ambassador. Maybe you can start.
Yes. Well, I loved really the outline that John actually laid out in terms of the things that we're going to really cover this year, and I also loved the interview by Chris. And what I really see here is that We are a program that will highlight achievement milestones this year. And for me, that's the greatest thing. We are a program that was born out of a vision that had tangible goals to achieve. So the project gave birth to the program. It's different than us having a vision for a program. You understand that? So we had a vision for a project. We had a vision for business transformation, and that transformation led to this program. And the story of the transformation being featured on the program will bring a lot of joy to all of us and to our viewers.
Certainly. And thank you very much, Ambassador Thomas. You're so correct. Sometimes you have to go with the flow, and certainly, no pun intended, Connect Caribbean. But definitely, I can see where we are going and bringing all of the topics together and making sure that we have the experts to really unpack the subject matters that we'll be dealing with. But Carolyn, you talked about in the connected voices. I think connect in the spotlight. Connected voices. You spoke about a number of things, and I wanted to get your take as to where the summit is, because that's going to be a very key segment on what's happening and where we're going with case and so forth. And I know we're going to have an opportunity to talk more about that. But just for those persons, when we end season one, we talked about the summit. Is there anything new that you want to talk about as we begin to wrap up this segment? Is there anything key that you want to?
Well, thank you so much, Jennifer, for bringing that out. And one of the things that I think that's so important about this summit, oftentimes all of us go to meetings, summits, forums, and we get information there. And at some point in time down the road, we can use it. What makes this different is the individuals that are being invited to this summit are involved in projects and deals that are ongoing, and you can have a part in it. There's an opportunity to actually see something that is of interest. Maybe this is something that you've wanted to be involved in all of your life, or you see the benefit to working with something that's happening in the Caribbean, and you can actually put your money where your heart is. So you'll be actually meeting some of the owners, some of the persons who the projects that are being worked on that we're speaking about are actually projects that, they may be looking for additional funding. There's an opportunity, an investment opportunity for you, but certainly an economic impact opportunity for you. When we think about all that the Caribbean has to offer, in particular, since this one will be on St. Croix, the body of the programming will be taking place there. It will be nice to have show and tell as well as meet, and we all dream of matchmaking events, but you might actually meet your match there.
Oh, very interesting. I see Chris smiling. What does that mean, Chris?
Well, that was really very interesting what Carol had to say. And my love of going to events, it just excites me to hear what was to be going on there. And I'm looking forward to it.
There's a number of things that you mentioned. Any particular key issue that you really want to focus in on as we move forward 2025?
Well, I think the biggest key for the region is, again, the digitalization of finance, giving people the ability to pay and get paid simply and easily across currencies, across islands, nations, and across languages. I think is key. I think we're going to see this year a lot of development on the crypto side. The Trump administration is already stated, President Donald Trump has already stated he wants the U.S. to be the crypto leader of the world, which makes sense because the U.S. dollar is the currency of the world. And I think that here in this region, we're uniquely positioned to be able to react quickly and take advantage of the benefits that that's going to present. I will just say, though, that changing, and one of the things that's held back both crypto, decentralized finance, some of these different aspects has been regulation. So if the US puts in regulation, this market will be able to really develop with a lot of unique features and abilities. We need to keep in mind, though, that it does take some time for regulation, and I would think that we'd see concrete results maybe towards the end of the year. So what that really means is that the foundation for all of this is blockchain, and blockchain technology is the driver that everything sits on. So we need to get our young people here involved in this technology so that we can develop the experts here ourselves.
Absolutely. And Ambassador Thomas, as we were talking about financial technology and small businesses and so forth, I know definitely the e-commerce component for the Connect Caribbean Beyond Group. How are you, based on all that's happening in a short space of time in January, a lot has taken place. I mean, President Trump signed about how many executive orders. I mean, what would that mean for positioning Connect Caribbean ferry service, and especially the e-commerce component? What's your vision there?
Yeah, the actions taken by the Trump administration are actually going to be positive for what we want to achieve. We're very excited about what our partnership with the USVI, our operations in the USVI would mean. And we're looking forward to really facilitating trade, not only via the actual ferries, but via the e-commerce platform Connect eShops. And we are partnering with Anthony's group to really do this. So we're very, very excited about this, and also looking forward to the possibilities that crypto offers once the industry is regulated. Then it gives a stability to a region like the Caribbean. And so I look forward to perhaps sometime next year, Jennifer being able to buy some face cream from Guyana using crypto.
The possibilities are endless, yeah?
Absolutely.
I want to bring you, John, in before before our time runs out. You know, as a supply chain expert and trade and all of that, as you see what's happening on the ground, is there anything that you want to speak to with regards to what's unfolding? I'm far from being a supply chain. I'm into marketing and communication, but I'd be interested to know what is your sense with respect to supply chain and trade and so forth with all that's happening. What's your perspective?
Yeah, thank you, Jennifer. I think, for me, just like some of my colleagues have been saying, there are very, technical aspects of our expertise that have been assembled here that look at bringing this information to the diaspora of the Caribbean and our unified region. I think what I'd like to do is just to applaud what we're doing here. I think public discourse in the globe and in the United States in particular and in the Caribbean has become increasingly polarized, okay, due to media fragmentation and ideological, echo chambers and the decline of critical thinking. And the media has been biased on both sides with the rejection, particularly in the United States, of the Fairness Act in 1987, where media didn't have the obligation to present both sides of the argument. That's not the case here. In the case here, we are presenting clear thinking about the issues that face. We're not bashing President Trump. We're looking at opportunities that as the administration changes, and they change all throughout the Caribbean, how do we take advantage of that? and what are the ethical and leadership implications of different shifts in politics that we can learn from a long time. Chris mentioned about the 250th anniversary of the Revolution. Well, James Madison in the Federalist Papers in Part 10 talks about those kinds of things and a commitment to ethical leadership. And so I think when we look at the guiding principles that all of the people that have put together this show have done, that we have rational debate based on information, the importance of compassion and what we're trying to do. And we have actually embraced the African concept of Ubuntu. I am because we are. And I think that attitude that we have in this show about bringing the public discourse in a very rational and concise way of the issues that face our community is extraordinary, and I'm happy to be part of the team.
Wonderful. 60 seconds. Anthony, is there anything you want to add as we wrap up in the last minute?
So food for thought as we that if there's ever a time of excitement for the Caribbean region, Latin America, Caribbean region, is 2025. The average forecast for expansion and growth economically is expected at 2.4%. So when you look at us collectively, 2.4% is the expected forecast growth for the region. And let me back it up by saying Guyana is expected to grow by 50%, Belize 4%, Suriname at 3.5%, Barbados 3%, Bahamas 2%, Jamaica 2%, and interestingly enough, the United States is at 1.90%, Mexico and Central America at 1.90%, Canada is at 1.80%, and the European Union at 1.30%. So those numbers tell you, when we talk about opportunities within the region, if there's ever a time for us to shine as a region, is 2025. Food for thought.
Thank you.
We'll leave it there with that amazing closing, and I really want to thank my co-hosts for our new season 2, episode 1. I want to thank obviously Anthony Weeks, Caribe Network, and Beyond Source on the TV. And I also want to thank Chris Principe of Financial IT. Thank you very much, Caroline Howell from CityCase, there in the DMV area, CEO of Events USA. Thank you for joining us here on Connect Caribbean Report. Thank you very much. John Clendenin from the IC Group, President and CEO. And also want to thank Ambassador Dr. Andre Thomas, Chairman and CEO of Connect Caribbean and Beyond Group. Thank you very much for joining us for this first program. But we'll see you back there next week, same time, EST or EST, whichever applies to you. That's 1:30. But we're looking forward to having you. Please share this Connect Caribbean Report. You can do us on our platforms on LinkedIn, on Facebook, and certainly we'll be adding more social media handles as we move forward. So thank you for joining us. We'll see you next week. Have a great time. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Welcome to our TV network, your ultimate destination for all things exciting and essential. From mouth-watering food to the latest in fashion, health, education, music, movies, and news, plus thrilling sports and breathtaking travel, our TV network brings it all to you. Tune in today and experience the best of every world, all in one place, rtv.network.